it, even though camera's not working. My apology. All right. So number 27. So we were saying lishmoi chush haria. We have to protect. We have to guard our vision, our eyesight. Zama devarim eidel, and it's very important. The following things are very important. Last week, but we'll go over it again to keep the flow. So, what do we have to be careful about? Number one, we shouldn't go suddenly from a very dark place to a very light place. And if we do need to go out of a dark place into a light place, then we should open the door slightly. And we should get used to that light. We should
Rabbi, you have to mute the background.
No,
Sorry? It's good now. I'm trying to say you have to mute everybody, but it's good now.
Yeah. So there's literally means to look at the light, but always get used to the little partial light. Then open the door more. And then use for a short period. Then open the door completely. Yeah, Susan, you have a question?
Yes, Rabbi. Are you talking literally or figuratively? Are you saying not to have an aha moment?
About
what are you talking about?
No. I mean, so this whole chapter is talking about looking after your health.
About health?
So,
okay, I didn't hear that.
This particular one, go from a very dark place to a very light place, yeah. So, was the sudden change in light can be not good for the eyes. And the same thing applies if you go from a light place to a dark place. Because a sudden transition from light to dark or dark to light, without anything in between, it can be bad, it can damage the eyes. So that's what we got up to last week in this number 27. So now we're going to go a little bit further. And therefore, Hashem in his maybe blessed in his
Rabbi, your audio is cutting out. Rabbi,
his compassion, he created the world with this in mind. See,
Rabbi,
is it good now? It's leaning a little bit closer.
Yeah. Now it's okay. Yeah, try now.
Yeah. So Hashem created the world in a way that it doesn't get dark in one shot. The sun sets slowly. And we say before the Shema, and we're blessing how Hashem creates the light and the sun and various things. So there's a phrase there that refers to this, and that's we praise Hashem and the blessing for this. And Shemar Lanu Barachmim Matmat, praising Hashem that he in his compassion.
We're losing you, Rabbi.
He
the audio is no good.
Lights up the world. Losing.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
I have a suggestion. Turn off your video Turn it off altogether and then
Since the
try
video
it.
is anyway not working, I'm going to turn. Okay, is it helping? Is it better now?
Yeah. Maybe.
Since whatever reason the video wasn't working, I actually worked out why the video wasn't working. It's a newish computer and there's still a sticker over the camera. I just took.
Isaac, you're
Hello?
muted. Isaac, you're muted. Isaac, you're muted. Nobody can hear you. Now we can see you.
Now you can see, now you can hear me, Baruch Hashem. What page were you
Yes.
in
Am I
the
back?
lesson booklet?
Yes, our camera wasn't working. Sorry?
We're in chapter 32 and paragraph 27.
So I worked out why the camera wasn't working. It's a newish, this is newish, yeah. Chapter 32, number 27. Okay. So there we go. All right. Can everyone hear now? Okay.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Oy chayzim in a shemesh. Now, light is reflected from the sun.
We're not hearing you. We're not hearing you.
What does this mean?
Not working, Rabbi.
שהשמש זורחת על איזה מוקרים. Sun reflects, it shines, and that's where it shines from. Not right. So if there's a Is everyone back?
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Yeah,
wrong.
we can now see your picture.
Yeah, but your audio is cutting in and out. You might have to turn off your video and just go with audio and see if that's good.
I'd rather go with video and
problem.
cut out the audio.
Do you eat lips?
I don't know.
No.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'll turn the video off. Maybe that'll help. It's the sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So just saying that light reflects off surfaces. And even though someone could be sheltered from sunlight, but if you've got a strong light reflecting off the surface, that can also be harmful to the eyes. Therefore, a person should try and avoid having a house that all the windows face north. And therefore, all the sunlight that comes into the house is reflected light. Likewise, even if the windows are all facing east or Daram or Marav,
The audio is not working, Rabbi. can't hear you.
If the sunlight is not visible, such, for an example, there's tall walls, next person should be careful. It says, okay, everyone froze.
We can't hear you, Rabbi. Stand next to the window.
Right.
Isaac, are you the host?
No, I hope not. Although I can do a little magic trick.
Can you sing and dance?
No, I never did that. Did magic.
Okay.
At no time did my fingers leave my hand.
How are you?
Baruch Hashem, you sound a lot better. How long are you over this
All right.
call?
All right. Can everyone hear?
Yes. And now we can hear you.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's
No, we're not hearing you now.
happening.
You're cutting
I'm
in
in the
and out.
same room as. Okay. Okay. What was the last thing that we heard?
Hello, everybody. How are you?
What was the last thing we said? Barsham, how are you?
Think
Oh, that was
something
the
a
last
bit
thing you heard?
light from the north, and it's better to have not light from the north because it's all reflected light.
We're not hearing anything you're saying, Rabbi. No, no, no.
Have direct sunlight, not reflected sunlight. Writing, or likreis b'sefer b'oisius ketonis, or reading from. So it's a little frustrating, isn't it?
Aye.
Okay. Am I
Sorry,
back?
sorry we're causing you so much trouble.
You sure you have internet in Australia there? Maybe it's a different language.
Well,
Where is he?
it's meant to be.
Australia.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Bring me back a
It's
boomerang.
somewhere over the ocean. It's getting disturbed. Yeah.
You should check your batteries.
Are you sure Kangaroo didn't kick your microphone?
If you're in
Boomerang
Australia,
internet by the look of it.
you have to take the whole
Just-
computer and turn it upside down.
instead of going to you, it keeps coming. All right. We'll try again.
We're not hearing anything. Rabbi, I don't know if you're speaking, but we don't hear anything.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. She has a phone. I'm hoping this is. Gonna be
Rabbi, the last thing that we heard you say was, I'm hoping that this is better. And then after that, nothing.
okay. Not enough. Hey, Baruch Hashem, we can have wonderful lights.
We're not hearing anything. Rabbi, should I try to give this year? And if you come back on, we can hear you. Let's try that. If you hear some background noise, I have my grandkids here, but let me try that. So we're in the middle of the chapter 27. Chapter 32, and in paragraph 27. So it says, even when the sun's light is reflected, that the sun's light shines on a surface which reflects it elsewhere, it's still dangerous to the eyes. Therefore, a person should take care not to live in a house whose windows open only to the north, for the sun never shines from the north, and all he receives is reflected light. Similarly, even if the windows face the east, west, or south, if the sun cannot be seen from these windows, for instance, it's blocked by high walls, then all the light is reflected. A person should take care not to write, read, or do any detailed work by twilight. The same applies during midday, when the sun's light is most powerful. A person should not involve himself extensively in writing, reading small print, or detailed work by candlelight at night. Looking extensively at the color white is also harmful to the eyes. Therefore, the sky is blue, not white, so that it will not harm the eyes. Similarly, looking extensively at bright red or at fire is harmful. Smoke and the odor of sulfur are also harmful, as are fine dust and wind, which blows in the eyes. Similarly, excessive walking, long strides. I'm just finishing, Rabbi, the piece we're in. Similarly, excessive walking, long strides, and excessive crying are also harmful. And the latter can be inferred from, it says in Eicha 2:11, my eyes fail with tears. Most harmful of all are excessive sexual relations. In contrast, it says in Tehillim, this 19:9, it says the mitzvahs of Hashem are pure, bringing light to the eyes. Okay, one of the rabbis can try taking over.
How's everything now?
It seems okay.
Okay, I believe the problem is fixed.
Does it fly back?
Okay. Yeah, just flew back. Yeah. Hashem. Okay, this is comedy of errors. Listen to this. So first of all, the camera initially, so this is my sister's computer, it's relatively new. It still had the sticker over the camera. I noticed that in the middle. That's why you were seeing part of the sticker instead of the picture of me. So I peeled that off. Second of all, I couldn't understand it. I'm right next to the Wi-Fi. Why we have such poor reception? And then I finally worked out that because instead of being connected to the Wi-Fi, it was hotspotted to my sister's phone, who's next door. So now we have connected to the Wi-Fi that I'm in the room with.
Maybe the
And I have
instructions
all the
are in
bars, Baruch Hashem, instead of one bar.
Maybe the instructions are in Australian, and that's why you didn't get what was going.
The instructions are in, let's test Rabbi Wernick's patience. And see if he remains calm.
Did they pass the test?
So far, I didn't throw the computer across the room yet, Baruch Hashem. Yes, all right. Okay, so you finished the chapter. Thank you very much. So hopefully we'll go undisturbed. Chapter 23. Siman Lamed Gimel, Devarim Asurim
33.
33. Yeah, 33. Things that are forbidden because they're dangerous. So in other words, it's not due to religious law per se, but one of the mitzvahs is that we have to look after our health. We have to ensure that we're only doing things that are safe and not something that's dangerous. So that avoids putting ourselves in a dangerous situation. So these are the things. And by Yudal Sifin, there's going to be 14 paragraphs, 14 separate ideas that's going to be in this chapter. So number one, Aleph, Asal Echol dog in Basa. We can't have fish and meat together. Right? So I'm sure Everyone's noticed at the Shabbos meal, we first have our fish, then we'll have some type of drink and various things and some challah, and then we have the meat. So it's not a religious, it's not a spiritual law per se, like fish, like meat and milk. But the prohibition of having meat and milk is a spiritual law. It's from the Torah, has a spiritual effect on us. This is for health. I'm not, I don't have the medical information of what the danger is, but it's not safe. But filo in shum oifus. Now, not only actual meat, and not only chicken, which is less of meat, but even with chicken schmaltz, with chicken fat, it's a problem because it's dangerous. And not only that, ve'ein litzlois bosam dog betona echod. You shehul dona cotton. When you're using a small oven, you shouldn't cook meat and fish in the same oven at the same time, because the steam from one will go into the other. Unless one of them is properly covered. So if it's really well covered, it's okay. So we don't want the moisture of one mixing with the other. So either a large enough oven that the steam will dissipate, or one of them, at least one of them is covered. But he says in our ovens that we use nowadays, and I'm sure our ovens today are larger than the ones they had, there's no concern. Okay, I'm just checking that went through fine without any sound glitches. Okay.
Yes.
Baruch Hashem.
You're fine, you're fine.
Baruch Hashem. Okay. Number 2. So, as we said, we can't have fish and meat together. So, what's the logistics? How do we do it? So, number 2. When eating fish, then meat afterwards, or vice versa, it doesn't matter the order. You should eat some bread or something else that, like an apple, or something that sort of is chewy and gets the things out between the teeth. So you should eat something like that. And to drink some type of beverage. That way you get a cleansing and a rinsing of your mouth. Right? So you don't need to go brush your teeth in between. Yes, you could if you really wanted to. But it's important to have something between, It reminds me of the story. Unfortunately, a true story. But the Jews were, we've had times in history where people have been very poor. So there was a fellow in Europe who was so poor that on Shabbos, all he could afford were beans. And so he, what could he do? At least he's going to pretend. So he had a few beans on a plate, and he says, fish l'kavod Shabbos, fish for the honor of Shabbos, and he eats a fish. And then he takes a few more beans, and he says, soup for the honor of Shabbos, and he has the soup. And then he says, chicken and kugel for honor of Shabbos, another plate of beans, and he eats the beans. And afterwards, he has dessert, a few more beans, and then he realizes, he says, oi, I forgot to drink something between the fish and the meat. Which, of course, his l'chaim probably would have been another bean or two. So, that's how it goes. But it is important to have something in between. Okay, number 3. Tzarich l'zar mezias adam. It's very important not to consume human sweat. And before anyone wonders, why would I do that? Right? I mean, sometimes, get splat, whatever it is. Because except for the sweat that comes off the face, the sweat that comes from every other part of the body, excluding the face, is poison. It has different things in it that if someone has too much, it's not going to be good for them. And therefore, people should not put food between their clothing and their skin. Now, again, you may be wondering, why would you do that? But, in times past, people would, sort of put food in their clothes. They didn't really have pockets. They put it, under a layer of clothing or something. When they walk somewhere, that was how they store their lunch. They're going off to work. So a person should be careful, but it's not touching the skin. There should be another layer of clothing. Because of the sweat. He says, likewise, you shouldn't put coins in your mouth. Because coins can have sweat or other dirt or other bacteria or germs or various things. So people should not put coins in their mouth. And again, why would you want to? But, in those days, people used to test if they're real gold coins or real silver coins by biting on them and different things. And he says, furthermore, coins are handled by many people. And some of them who handled the coins could have been ill at the time. And diseases can be transferred. So a person should be very careful. Okay. Number 4. Person should be careful about the following. If a person smells a food and he's not eating the food, it's not a food that he's eating. If he's eating it, is no problem. But if he smells a particularly pungent food, it's not just smell anything cooking, but a particularly strong aroma. He should spit out the saliva that he has in his mouth. Now, it doesn't mean you have to dry it to your mouth. What it means is sometimes you have a very strong smell of food and it's a food that you like. Your mouth begins to water. So that's the saliva we're talking about. That the mouth began to water due to this food. Rather than swallow it, a person shouldn't swallow it. So a person swallows this saliva that came from mouth watering from the smell of this food, a person could, God forbid, come to danger. And as a side point, this is one of the origins for pretty much universal Jewish custom, that if someone enters a Jewish home during a meal, for whatever reason they come and it's during a meal, you always invite them to partake of the food. So part of it is just good old-fashioned Havas Yisrael. We should love our fellow Jew and offer something. But even because of this as well. Yep. Number 5. Now, a person should be very careful not to drink liquids that have been left uncovered. Now, today in cities, this is not as much of a concern. Originally, this was due to snakes. So, look, there's still some areas in the world today where snakes are common where people live. Most built-up cities is not really an issue. But it used to be an issue. A snake would come drink from the water, and often, as they drank, some venom would be released into the water, and then someone's going to come drink the water and become poisoned. And it was something that unfortunately, I'm not going to say happened every day, but it wasn't unheard of. There were incidents that happened. So in those times, it was very careful. Even if it was left in for a few minutes, something could crawl out from under somewhere where it's out of sight, drink and get back. Today again in built up cities, or like we have today, there's really few snakes. there's still Kabbalistically the idea of if you leave a thing of water overnight, a liquid open overnight. And we're going to speak about that in the next one. But so that's still an issue. But today, if you live in an area where there's no snakes, if your cup of water was or your coffee or something was uncovered, it's short term. It's not an issue. Just to mention again, by the way, in the full Shulchan Aruch, it also mentions the same thing, not to have eggs or onion or garlic. When I say onion or garlic, I mean without the peel. Garlic or eggs, sorry, opened eggs, not the egg was cracked, and garlic or a onion that was left unpeeled. Again, if it was left overnight, because also had this concern. Today, if people keep a peeled onion, it's probably in a Ziploc in the fridge or something. So it's not so much of a concern. Yes, David.
What about a soft-boiled egg that was unpeeled and it was left out
Yes,
overnight?
so soft-boiled is okay. Soft-boiled is okay.
I don't mean
the,
soft-boiled. I mean to say hard-boiled, like a hard-boiled egg. that was
Yeah,
left out.
hard-boiled is no problem. And soft-boiled is close enough because the white at least has, is solid. It's meant actually like a liquid egg, like someone checked eggs and they put it in a cup and they left it. So again, today, if you're going to do that, it's in the fridge, probably covered as well with foil or cling wrap or something. So it's not so much of a problem. So number 6. So now what we're speaking about is Kabbalistically. Now you can't put food or drink under a bed. Even if they're covered. Now it could be today, even though we don't do it anyway, but after the fact of it happened, today when we have food that is like vacuum packed, to say like a packet of chips, it's properly sealed. It's not just covered, it's sealed. Could be a little bit different. We'll still avoid it, but after the fact, maybe we don't have to get rid of it. Why don't we do it? Because a ruach ra, we're going to explain this concept. We're going to literally probably translate the words as an evil spirit, but it's not really what it means, especially in this context. Comes on it. We'll just finish the next sentence and we'll have a discussion about it. Kfarim, and in villages, where people store potatoes and other foods like that, they put it under the beds. We have to warn them not to do this. Okay. So, Ruach Ra in the Talmud refers to several things. We could say generally what it means is something that's negative that we can't measure. We can't measure it with the eye. So therefore refers, and depending on the context, can refer to several things. So we'll speak generally and we'll come back to this context. It can refer to like bacteria and microscopic organisms, things that, in other words, cause infection. So it's something that you can't see, you can't touch, you can't measure it, but it has a negative effect. That's one of the things it refers to.
To do buzz and whoever it was.
You're right. Another thing that it refers to is a mental illness. So again, it's talking about it has a negative effect on a person, but it's not something you can see. It's not like a broken leg, God forbid, where a person you can see that there's an injury or a wound. But so sometimes a person is affected, and so we'll have different types that. So for an example, a person if he had a ruach ra and he wanted to divorce his wife or something, or he had a ruach ra and he broke Shabbos. So we have discussions about things like that. So that's what it means. It means that a person lost control of themselves. So it's something negative they can't measure. And the third thing is a spiritual ill effect. So sometimes things spiritually can have a negative effect. And again, it's something that you can't measure. So this is a general term for things that cause a negative / dangerous effect in something or usually in a person, but it's not something that is visible to the human eye. So that's the general term. So in the spiritual, it's often also referred to shindalids. So we'll briefly just mention that. I think it's it's good general knowledge, and it's partly what we're speaking about here. So we know everything in creation has so there's 4 general categories, an example. So there's inanimate objects, then there's plant life, then there's animal life, and there's human life. And in between each level, there's a mamutza, there's an intermediary. So for an example, between regular plant life and animal life, you have certain plants that can, well, like Venus flytraps, but you have bigger ones that can eat small rodents, and they have digestive juices, and they can even take a step or two, so to speak, they can move a little bit on the surface on their roots. You have this intermediary, right, between animals and humans. You have like chimpanzees, you have, the, various things.
Rabbi, you're saying that there's plants that can walk
Well, they can move a little bit.
a step or two?
I mean, I don't think they take a step with feet, but they can move, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you've been watching horror movies or what.
Oh, the Triffids or something, but I said they can move a little bit. That's what I'm saying. It's yeah. They have these ones, and they can eat. They eat rodents. Like in South America, they eat like the size of cats and dogs. They're nature has some incredible things. All right.
If they start walking a step or two, it's time to close your bedroom door.
Well, don't plant them near your house. Let them stay in the Amazon or wherever they are. That's don't put them in your front porch. Well, it could be good security. We found the remains of a thief. What did you do?
Right.
Was it me?
My prowler was eaten by my plant.
That's right. That's my
just
story, and I'm sticking to it. So, between humans, when I say humans, I mean the composite, meaning the soul with the physical body. So the composite part godly, part physical, part animal. That's the human. And then we have a malach, which we loosely call an angel, but of course we don't mean a little fairy with a halo. It's a type of spiritual entity that is similar to, although nowhere near as spiritually powerful as our soul, but it's a total spiritual life form. So in between, we have an intermediary that we call a shindalid. Often they translate it as demon. It's really, forget about poor translation. It's totally inaccurate. It definitely does not refer to what Christianity refers to as demons in the slightest. Shindal has pretty much been banished from this world by a series of tzaddikim over the years, and but a shindalid is part human, well, similar to human and similar to a malach. I won't say part because it's different entity, so it's more sort of like a soul-wise, more like a malach, but it can be in a total spiritual existence like a malach / angel can, but also it can be physically in the physical world. But as it's not totally physical, it's not completely bound by the laws of physics. So it can do things that humans can't do. We'll loosely call it flying, but it means not bound by laws of gravity. It can change its appearance to an extent, right? Its feet can't change as an example because its feet is what's rooted to the ground. It's the most earthly part of it. So that's bound more by the laws of physics, but it also is limited a little bit to how and what it can change its appearance to, but it can change. Yes, David. Yeah.
You were saying intermediary. I don't know if that's an Australian pronunciation, but I think it's intermediary. That's the way it is in the US. Might be different in Australia.
Okay.
Intermediary?
I don't know.
What, Isaac?
I think maybe it is a different. I'm either it's Australianism or I'm just illiterate.
Intermediary.
I'm not sure which one it is. I'll check it up afterwards. And if I'm not right, I won't let you know.
Not to go backwards, but I just found my copy of Your Awaken Your Emunah, which is Rabbi Avigdor Miller on nature.
Yes.
He was talking about plants talking to animals. And he brings up just a reference that tomato plants, when the daughter is, affecting it or getting it, when it's too many of them, it sets out a scream. The tomato releases the chemical equivalent of a scream. Many plants emit a chemical SOS that the smell because the smell that you get of freshly cut grass when you go out and say a machaya and you have the smell, that's its scream to animals and bugs to come save it.
Okay. And it probably went red in anger as well, the tomato.
We're causing stress, we're causing trauma to these plants. It's the plant's way of calling out for help. And then he has all the different animals that respond to that. So they do talk to each other.
Yep. There's a lot more to the world than meets the eye. So Shindalids aren't bad necessarily, but what usually makes them perceived as bad is that when there's an interaction, or in the past, between a human and Shindalid, since the human is bound by the laws of physics and the Shindalid isn't, the Shindalid usually wins. So it's like a human with a rifle against an animal, So the human usually wins. Since we're the human, we think that's okay, but the animal thinks got these evil hunters or whatever happens to be. So when there's been interactions, it usually has been positive, and some Shindalids recorded in Talmud in various places, or that period of literature, seem to have a warped sense of humor and enjoy messing up humans, like entertains them. But again, we see people do similar things to animals. So maybe that's nature. If you can, you do. But that's what happens. So they're also referred to sometimes as Ruach Ra. In other words, can have an effect on various things. So in this case, the things under the bed, it's a combination. It's a combination of lack of hygiene and also spiritually. So for an example, it's not limited to this, but as an example, when a person sleeps, so as we know, we've discussed it in the past, when a person sleeps in a deep sleep, up to 1/60th of their soul that's enclosed in the body leaves their body, and it leaves a void, and that void is filled by what we call tumah. So again, poorly translated as spiritual impurity, but it's a different system. It's the system of death, the spiritual system of death, and Jews operate on the spiritual system of life. It's not necessarily negative, because, for example, a person does a great mitzvah, taking care of the needs of the deceased. They become tomei. The tumah it cleaves to them, has to be removed. That's not negative. They did a mitzvah. There's no negativity comes out of a mitzvah, but they're like on a different wavelength. So before they could go into the Beis Hamikdash to the Holy Temple, which God willing be rebuilt today, which operates on the system of life. They have to go through a process to spiritually change wavelength / purify themselves, for lack of a better word. So when a person sleeps on the bed or sleeps anywhere, so what happens when we wake up? There's part of our consciousness, that part of our soul returns. It pushes out the tumor. It stays in our fingernails, to a smaller extent, our toenails. That really only affects Kahanim, who have to be on the highest level of Tahara when they go into the base of Mikdash. So that's why they wash their hands and their feet. But for the rest of us who are not actually doing the service, we only have to remove it from our fingernails. That's its primary resting place. And that's why we wash our hands. Negobas in the morning, we ritually wash our hands. It's to because it's pushed out through our fingers, and it's in our fingernails, which are dead, and it overhangs onto the hand. So it's on us while we're in a deep sleep, and so therefore it can be in the bed, which really doesn't make any difference because we're on the bed. But if we have food, particularly under the bed, I mean anything under the bed, but now talking about food, because food we eat afterwards. We bring it inside of us. And the tumor can actually have physical effect. It can be damaging. So as an example, another idea of this, we discussed this in the first chapter, was in the morning, when we first wake up, before we wash our hands to remove the tumor, we shouldn't touch any openings on our body. So eyes, ears, mouth, nose, or cuts, or in the genitals or various things. We shouldn't touch any openings, because while the tumor is still on our hands, it can enter the body through one of the openings. So, and that can, not necessarily will, but could have a spiritual effect. So this is the same idea of the food. If the food is under our beds when we're sleeping, so the example he gave people, I guess in that time, used to often store potatoes under the bed. And they're doing this on a regular basis. And this, they're there for a few months, the potatoes. So the chances are, someone sleeping regularly for months, there's tum on them, and the person may be eating it every day, and can have a cumulative effect, and it can be dangerous, God forbid. So that's what I was talking about here.
Summer camp.
Yes, right. That can be a problem. So nowadays, we're particularly careful in the first instance not to put food under beds at all. And if food was under there, we generally throw it away and don't eat the food. After the fact, though, if it was something that was really sealed, so I'll just use an example of a packet of chips. It's not something that's it's not vacuum packed per se, but it's not just covered. It's properly sealed, and particularly if that was in a suitcase or another bag. So after the fact, you don't necessarily have to throw it away. Some things are properly sealed. So covered is not sufficient, but properly sealed could be good enough. So, sometimes you have to put something under the seat in front of you on the plane, and maybe the person fell asleep before you had a chance to remove it. Whatever. If it's properly sealed food, after the fact, there's definitely room to be, to relax about it, not to be overly concerned. So that's number 6. Number 7. V'chein yizar. Now is speaking generally. Person should also be very careful. Mikol davar moving l'dei sekona, to any action that can lead to a dangerous situation. Dangerous situation, not being careless crossing the road, reckless by the pool. You know, I mean, there's lots of things. Person should be cautious about these things. He says that creating a dangerous, potentially life-threatening situation for yourself is actually more serious. It overrules a prohibition, the regular Torah prohibition. The truth is also a prohibition, right? Because we have a verse in the Torah that says, you have to be very careful, take care of yourself. No, we've gone a minute over, but we sort of had this interruption, so we'll just finish this one. If someone needs to go, no one will be offended, but we'll just, I feel bad that we had a rough start to the class. So we'll just finish this one. So it's also a prohibition not to put yourself in a dangerous situation, but this one overrules. The suffix economy, suffix isa. And we have to be more concerned about even a potential life-threatening situation than we are about a potential prohibition. So taking this to the extreme is something we discussed many times. The idea of calling an ambulance on Shabbos, someone has a heart attack, or whatever you have to do, put a person in the car, use any equipment. So we see that, and that you don't know for sure the guy's going to pass away if you don't do it. God forbid, it's quite, maybe he'll survive. But just the potential of sakana, of life-threatening situation, overrules a definite prohibition. It's not even a prohibition in that case. It becomes a mitzvah. And so over here, anything that can put a person into a potential dangerous situation, and therefore, also a person is prohibited to go on any dangerous place. Could go in, for example, tachas kirnotoi, a leaning wall, right? The wall is not sturdy, but gesharua, or a rickety bridge. Used to have these rope bridges and things, or an aged, bridge is not safe. The Yetzi Yechidi B'Layla shouldn't go out alone at night. Of course, that depends where you live. The Yishan Yechidi B'Cheda B'Layla shouldn't sleep alone at night. Means in an unlit place where there's no other people. V'chein Osro Lishtois Mayim in the Haretz B'Layla. It's also forbidden to drink water from rivers and streams at night. Okay, what it means at night is that you can't see, right? Because a person could be gathering the water and could be a leech in it. They put the cup in or whatever, or anything in it. So today with the electric lights that we have, it's not so much, but it's potentially not so much an issue. I guess if you're out camping, it would be the same idea. But a person shouldn't take water from a river and things and drink it without being able to see it. Or to put one's mouth on a stream of water. So again, you have it's like type of thing like a guttering or something, again, that you can't see what's coming out. In case chas v'shalom, a person swallows something dangerous. Okay, any questions before we finish up?
Yeah, Rabbi, what about a water fountain?
So I think generally today, I mean, if you see the outside of the fountain is clean, I think then water coming through the plumbing is quite safe. If you're in an area that has clean water. It's growing up, my mother always said we should leave the water run a little bit in case anything fell, or got put in all this sort of come out. So it's probably not a bad idea. I think generally.
About a university demonstration.
Well, depends who's demonstrating what they're demonstrating about, but it could potentially become an issue. And how many bodyguards you have with you as well. Again, my apologies for the beginning of the lesson, the internet, and so I'll probably be here again next week as well, God willing. So now I know what the issue was. We'll avoid it in the first place, God willing.
What was the issue? Kangaroos on the wires?
No, instead of being connected to the Wi-Fi that's in this apartment, was connected to someone else's hotspot who was 2 apartments
Oh.
across.
I thought you just had to take the computer and turn it upside down.
It could be, or perhaps I should have been upside down.
I think the whole house has to be upside down.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
how many hours?
I one time, and again, we're finished. Those need to go, can go. But one time, when I was living in Australia, I visited Florida to my grandmother. All of a sudden, we were visiting, and I forgot to pack a belt, and I needed one if I wanted to go out in public. But my grandma-in-law, she had suspenders, so Schleikers, so I borrowed them. Sorry?
Bilkis.
Yeah. So I borrowed them. And so people ask me, does everyone in Australia wear those? I said, only when they visit America, because I'm upside down. I don't want to fall off the ground. And although people didn't believe that was true, I think some people believed that I thought it was true. And I got some very interesting looks. I was just expecting people to laugh, but what can you do?
Rabbi, what's the time difference?
It's so we started the class at 5 a.m. on Monday and finished at 6. Now it's 6:08 a.m.
Wow.
Quick, you can still get a good nap before Shacharus.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go, but Baruch Hashem, I went to sleep early. Went to sleep about 8.
Wow.
Thanks for waking up for us,
Thank
Rabbi.
you, thank you, thank
You
you.
are most definitely worth it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a wonderful week, and God willing, next week, and smooth sailing, God willing.
At 5 a.m., the internet traffic is probably kind of slow.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't understand why I wasn't working. But all good. All right, take care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.